I'm sure.
Audio problems galore today.
Did we get the person who was in the middle of asking her question back?
Not yet. Williams, are you back?
Jackie's back. Hello?
Hey, Jack.
Hi, Jackie.
Hey. Did everyone get disconnected, or was that just me?
No, that was everyone.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All got cut off, yeah.
No worries, no worries. Karen, are you back on the line? Not yet.
Yeah. Who was asking her question before we accidentally
I
cut her
think
off?
Karen. Karen is what I'd written down.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking through, I think, just information about her question on as far as account planning.
Right. Is she back on the line?
It doesn't look like it right now. Karen, are you
Okay.
one of the members out there? She was on our headsets. I could see that she was on. It's just,
Do we want to take another question while she's getting logged back in? In case
yeah.
somebody else has a question?
Yeah, does anybody else have a question? Who else has a question? Sue, go ahead.
We're supposed to, my company's going to try and use the Outlook connector. And I was wondering, first of all, is there a way to configure it? And I'm pretty sure there is, but I haven't used it in a while, to just go one way from Outlook, a one-way sync into Salesforce, first of all. Secondly, does anyone know if it's an API hub? We already are averaging at 56% of our API usage without the Outlook connector being installed for, we have over 300 users.
Okay. So with the Outlook connector, you can create configurations and you can assign users or profiles to those configurations. With that configuration, you can basically say what they can or cannot sync and which direction it goes to. Now, the one thing I would caution, if you want things to go from Outlook into Salesforce, especially when you're dealing with contacts, is be prepared for a data mess. Especially if you have not been cleaning up the contacts on the Outlook side of things for people. What will happen is you'll end up getting this huge flush of new contacts coming into Salesforce, and a lot of them probably be either incomplete or duplicate data to what you already have there. When I worked with people who wanted to sync contacts from Outlook into Salesforce, one of the first things we do is we go through all the users and we essentially clean up all the contacts out of the in the Outlook. There's a couple of software solutions out there that do that. So when you do the sync, you're not dealing with tons of duplicates coming in the system, messing up your data.
Well, basically, what came up in our meeting was that we want our users to simply use Outlook to create tasks and events, just sync that into Salesforce. Now, will it just go find the contact? I do not want their records flowing into Salesforce. That's why I'm asking if it's possible.
Okay, yeah. So you can actually say, I don't want them. They can sync tasks, they can sync events, but they can't sync contacts. You can do that. What actually happens really greatly depends on what method you use. So for an example, with an event, you can have the option to sync the calendar of Outlook to events in Salesforce, but it's just creating the event in Salesforce. It's not actually doing much of anything else. It can try to find the contact based on the email address that's assigned in the event, but if there's none there, the event still gets created.
So it's like an event?
Yes. Appointments in Outlook become events in Salesforce. Outlook tasks
Okay.
become tasks in Salesforce.
Right.
The,
They can be orphaned if they cannot be connected.
Correct. And the other thing that can happen is that if you use the sync method, unless you are specific flags, so like only non-private appointments in Outlook hit sync, it will bring over the entirety of the calendar, including things that are not client related. Like if someone blocked out an hour for lunch, that would get created in Salesforce.
I see.
The option that I typically have preferred historically with the Salesforce for Outlook plugin is not to do the automatic sync, but instead set it up so the users can go use the side panel, click on the appointment in Outlook, and the side panel will open up and it'll let them say, I'm going to create this as an event in Salesforce. Here's the account or the opportunity I want to associate it to, and here's the contact I want to have it associated to. So they can still create the information from Outlook, but it's a manual process where they have more control over where that data is going in Salesforce.
Now, will they need to, as I understand it, each user will need to download the connector and then have a security token every time they log in? Is that right?
No.
Okay.
With the new version of the Salesforce for Outlook, you do not need to have the security token. You authenticate using what's called OAuth, and once that person is authenticated, most of the time they don't have to re-authenticate. Now that can cause some issues when if you have people traveling about a lot of times and you have some verification that needs to be done, like if they're off on a network that isn't recognized by your org or they have never used before.
Right.
But that doesn't happen too often in my experience once you're set up. If the password gets changed for the user, they do have to re-authenticate for that.
And that's just that digit code that they need to use, right?
It's not even a code. So what will happen is when you install the connector, it shows up as a little gray or red S in the tray.
Right.
Means it's not connected to Salesforce. Red means it is. And all they have to do is right-click that, hit settings, and log in, and they can actually go through and just log into Salesforce as if they're doing it through a browser.
I see. And does anyone know, is it going to really impact our API usage? Because we have quite a bit of integration into our Salesforce instance, and like I said, we are at already 56% usually on a daily basis, and I don't know the impact that using this Outlook connector would have on the API usage. And does anyone know if it has any impact?
If it does, it doesn't that I know of count towards your API limits.
Yeah, if it's anything, it's got to be pretty darn minimal, because I had it for a little over 150 users, and I didn't see a dent made in our API call.
Okay.
Now I do know you see it. You will see it listed as in the login history for the users, but I didn't see any real major impacts from my API call standpoint.
Okay, and my next question related to it, is there anything better on the App Exchange?
This is personal preference, and I'm going to be biased in the sense that I work for a company that does resale this product, so take it for what it's worth.
Okay.
But there's a product that's called LinkPoint 360, and
I'm sorry?
it's called LinkPoint, LinkPoint 360.
Okay.
It works very similarly to Salesforce for Outlook in the sense that it gives you a side panel. But because it's a third party, you have a little bit more flexibility. For example, we have some customers who will pay a one-time fee over to LinkPoint and have a configuration built just for their org because they want to have certain things synced differently or to different records.
I just saw it on the App Exchange. It looks like they'll let you trial it, so.
Yeah.
All right, that helps.
The one thing to consider is you will have to configure it for each user versus setting a a configuration for the entire company.
Okay. Well, I'm going to test it. And the other question I have is critical updates. We use SFAMP, and we are always copying our Salesforce instance every 5 minutes. If I were to install the Outlook connector, does anyone know if that will break the schema? Because we have developers that freak out every time I try and do anything.
Is it going to affect the schema?
Yeah, because of what we create a SQL copy using a tool called SFAMP. We have heavy development into our Salesforce instance, and normally the developers are like, don't add new fields without me stopping the processing because it breaks the schema. I half understand what they're talking about, but I didn't know if this Outlook connector would that impact. I don't think it creates fields. It's just simply
yeah, that's correct.
Right.
It doesn't. It connects the two systems. It uses standard fields on the records for opportunities, contacts, accounts, and so forth. So no, it does not create anything new in the metadata and the actual fields or anything like that.
Okay, and then my last question is the critical updates that they always threaten you if you better turn them on. Has anyone ever had any issues with activating those? Because I usually just activate them. Has anyone
This
ever
is
had
Brian
any-
again.
I don't understand.
I have, but that was kind of my own fault because I was taking advantage of something that was, I guess you would say, broken in Visual Workflow. And a critical update actually fixed it to be the way Salesforce wanted it to run. And
Right.
that ended up breaking like 10 of my flows that I just had to go back and update.
Okay.
Which is why if you're on an Enterprise Plus system, turn on the critical updates in your sandbox first and check to see if anything breaks.
Yeah, I did that, and so far so good. So, okay. Thank you.
All right, awesome.
I'm sorry I'm barging in, but I'm back on again. It's Karen.
Oh, come back to you. All right.
Karen, you're in the middle of kind of talking through. I have an idea for you, and whether or not it's better or worse than creating a checkbox, I'll leave it up to you. Because a lot of it kind of depends on what your reporting requirements are. So if you need to keep that checkbox for the past quarter, which it sounds like you're doing, you might want to consider creating a new object, call it account planning or something like that. So instead of going in and marking a checkbox on an account, they create a related record to that account. So, I'm targeting it for this quarter or whatever the case may be. And then when you report off of that related record and you can pull in account data through the report. I've used that in some of my past companies, and it works fairly well. It gets a little convoluted, though, when you want to do something like, I want to report on the things that people have targeted for this quarter, and I want to grab the opportunities. There's ways around that, but it really gets right down to what are the actual specific reporting needs you have.
Right, and I did do that too. I did create the object and put it on the record as a related list and all of that. And my boss is like, oh, it's too complicated for them to go in. I'm like, really? Come on. So I did that for our product manager team. They choose their picks for the quarter too. So I did that for them, and it seems to be working out okay. But you're right, there are limitations. I just thought maybe other than those two things, maybe there's something I'm missing out there. And if not, I feel better because the planning aspect is a little, it's not all that easy to do in Salesforce. I think that the best solution for that is the custom object on the record.
Here's something that you can try. You can try. If he's thinking that having them go in and create a custom record is too arduous, but doing a checkbox is okay, you could take a look and say, maybe create a single checkbox or create a button that when the checkbox is checked, it launches a process which will launch a flow, or actually you could do it all in Process Builder, but or just launch a flow from them clicking a button and have that actually create the related record for you. If I was in the shoes, depending on the specific needs, I would probably do something like this, where I will have a button called a flow to create the related record for that individual account. Have that be a master detail relationship. Have a roll-up summary field that lets me tell me, do I have a planning record for, say, the current quarter or the current year, depending on what my reporting needs are. Then I can still run reports for accounts and opportunities that fall within that planning quarter or planning year.
Right, that's a good idea, and I didn't think of going that direction. So definitely something I think I will be trying, just to automate it a little bit more. You know how sales guys are. They don't want to put the information in. It's got to be easy.
Oh, yeah, believe me. The last time I did this with a group, we exported something like 20,000 accounts out of the system for the people to manually go through in a spreadsheet and then import back in. So yeah, believe me, I understand.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks. That helps me.
Yeah. Anyone else have ideas?
I would just, I don't know, I would go with the opportunity, because that's the thing usually you're chasing, and, do some kind of workflow around that. I mean, it's either they're going to make money from it or they're not. When you're saying they are quarterly looking for accounts, I would go after opportunities. Just, in the sales sense, that makes more sense to me. That's
yeah, and ultimately we do that. We do that because it comes down to, here's your plan of attack. Here's who you contacted and what's the productivity that came from those accounts that you targeted. So, it really, you're right. It all comes down to the opportunity and
you can always schedule automated reports and have those come out, I guess, quarterly. Just if they're hot prospects, that's what should be worked. I mean, that's really all. I look at it from a sales pipeline perspective. You know what I mean? Not customer care. It's like you're trying to make money here, and so here's your go after these people. So I would go the opportunity route. That's just my personal take on it.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Who else has a question?
I always have questions.
Go ahead.
Anybody being affected, concerned, or worried about the split from the NA2 from the NA2 instance, which is coming up, I guess, in a couple of weeks?
That all depends on, did you hard code your instance in any links or buttons or anything like that? Did you hard code any IDs? Because you run the risk, if you get splitted off into the other instance, that your IDs could actually change. For example, like the one that usually bites me in the backside all the time is record type IDs.
I see. We also, our developers are unable to and are unwilling to give up S controls. And I think they may reference NA2 in that, so they need to fix those, I guess.
Yeah, because, well, if you get moved out to NA2, they all will break.
Okay. Well, I'll let them know what I learned, and I'm not a developer, so I'll let them deal with it. Thank you.
I have a follow-up question. Brian, do they tell you ahead of time which instance you're going to be on so that you can be ready for those breakages?
I've only gone through this once before, and my experience at that time was no.
I didn't think so.
But that being said, they give you lots of warnings saying it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. And so for a lot of places, you can avoid doing like na2/ or na2.salesforce.com/. You can remove that problem by just removing na2.salesforce.com totally and just do /, because your browser is going to assume if you have that /, it's a page on the same server that you're currently on. The place that's usually the worst is if you get moved, because then your IDs for your records could potentially change. And if you're hard-coded any of those into your buttons or to workflow rules or approval processes, you're kind of sunk. It's one of those things that you get moved and you can't prepare for it because you won't know what the ID is going to be until you get switched over.
So your best bet is keeping an inventory of everything where you've hard-coded something?
Yes, and try to remove hard-coded as much as possible.
Are there any instances where just using the / doesn't work and you have to use the pod number? If you're creating
if you're trying to move over to if you're trying to purposely move to a different instance, or
just in preparation for if that happens, like best practices.
The best practice for me, just in general, is unless you absolutely positively have to reference the instance you're on, don't reference it. And there's almost no reason to ever reference it.
Okay. So I could go back now and
yeah, S control is notwithstanding, because it's been years since I've had to write an S control.
Okay. But any URL hacks or custom buttons that we've created, we could go back and look at those and then take out whatever the pod number is and just start with the whack?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep,
okay,
we use that.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, who else has a question? We got about 13 minutes left. Nobody has any questions? Well, end it early.
Hey, Brian, not to put you on the spot or anything, but what do you have coming up for blog post topics?
Oh, great question. Well, in about 13 minutes, I'm going to have a new Wizard Apprentice post that's all about how do you validate products and an opportunity using Flow. Coming up for blog posts in general, that's a good question. To be quite honest, I'm so far behind in writing my blog posts. I'm actually writing them almost the day of or the night before. And it's probably kind of because I've bitten off a little too much to chew between the videos, the podcasts, and blogs and work. But I'm probably going to just dig into my chest of tricks and see if I can find anything that I take for advantage and realize other people probably don't even know how to do it.
Very cool. Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks for asking.
Of course.
Got to follow that Wizard news.
I have a question. Is anybody using DocuSign for Salesforce?
Not currently, but I've used it in the past.
I use it. I use it. This is Melissa with Orbitz Worldwide.
Okay, great. Well, here's just a question I have. It's just yes or no, not necessarily how do you do it. But has anybody had any issues with bringing product prices over where it's formatted in using commas and 2 decimal points?
When you pull it over into the document, you're using the DocuSign merge fields?
Yes.
We use Conga for the creation of the document.
Okay. I think that's the route we're going to have to go. On your documents using products, are you grouping them by family and displaying them on your document in specific groups and orders?
We're not, but we can. If you're looking at for a solution that'll do that, Conga is fabulous at that. It's so powerful. You can group it however you want. You can format. You have so many formatting options with Conga. It's way more powerful than the DocuSign piece for building your document, and it's not very expensive for what you get. I highly recommend Conga.
I love Conga. I've used them for other things. I just haven't used their integration with DocuSign. So to know that
so it's going to be on the custom button. You're going to have all of the Conga codes right in there, and they're super. Well, if you work with them, then you know how friendly they are.
Okay, they're awesome. All right, well, good. I just wanted to know if anyone had that experience and if there were any other solutions. So fantastic. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Any other questions? All right.
I have a strange one. We have invoicing development. We have developers that we create invoices that push into Salesforce, and I have been asked, is it possible when something is canceled in an invoice for a case to be created? And I don't think so, but I don't know.
I think you can use Process Builder for that.
Okay.
Is it a status update at that point for the cancellation?
Well, it's integration. It's development outside of Salesforce. But basically, what we do is we sell classes, and some people buy a bunch of classes and then they want to cancel. So what we have is, we have to cancel the invoice, which will cancel the class registration. And some talk came up of we would like to create a case and then force a reason for the cancellation. And I just couldn't remember, since the class registration is a custom object and the invoicing is, an outside developed thing, whether there's some way to force a case, and if so, would it attach itself to the custom object known as the class registration? Does it have to go to contact?
So for your integration, are you syncing that information over for your invoice? Does it know? I mean, is it an actual record in Salesforce that's a contract?
Well, what we do is we push the invoice number and the line IDs over to the custom object that we have.
And then a status changes to say it's been canceled, right?
Right.
Yeah, so off that field update, when it changes to canceled, you should be able to use Process Builder or a flow trigger to create a new record, a new case at that time.
And then the default case owner would be the owner of the class.
Yeah, then you can map it. You can. I think you should be able to either set a default person or map over the name of the. If you have that data point on your invoice, you should be able to map that over and use it.
Okay, that helps. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I don't know how much you're on when you get started with Process Builder. I highly recommend what's his name? Gupta. Have you seen his? He has like 17 blog posts about process builder. They're really detailed. Hold on, let me find them. Brian, you know who I'm talking about.
I wish I had more time to get into all that.
Hold on, let me find him. I was Gupta. Yeah. What's his first name? Rakesh, right? Yeah. RakeshGupta.com.
Great. Thank you.
I'll find the link and post it. Oh, I guess I can't post it in Chatter here, can I? Is there a group post, Brian, that I can share it with?
You can post it to the MVP Office Hours group,
Okay.
the community.
Thank you. I'll take a look.
Yeah, love it. I've been doing a lot lately with the process builder and stuff off of that. It's it's pretty slick.
Cool.
We got about 5 minutes left. Any other questions? All right, if there are no other questions, we'll go ahead and stop it there. Thanks, everybody, for your time. Thanks, MVPs, for jumping on. And as always, if you have any feedback, definitely let us know. Be happy to take it into account. And everyone have a great weekend.